So this virtual talk marks the start of the countdown to PowTech Technofarm and PowTech Congress in 3 months. From 23 to 25 September, we will finally meet again in person here in Nuremberg, and we are very excited about that. And I hope you're too. So we cordially invite you to be part of the community, and yes, please feel free to use our voucher code, as you have seen before, to secure your ticket. And I will also copy a link with a free ticket into the chat. Today, you can look forward to 4 exciting presentations about the topic innovations in additive manufacturing, from powder handling to personalized medicine. Find out how pre- and post-processing are crucial for quality and efficiency in AM, and learn how efficient, safe, and reproducible handling of powders is essential for industrial 3D printing. Take a look at current research approaches for the product of personalized medicines and new powder technologies. Now, before we start with our talks, I would like to express my special thanks, firstly to Ulla Reutner, who always actively supports us in our planning, and secondly to our speakers. First of all, Pascal Diebold from ATEC Ultrasonic Systems, Klaus Kilian from ATSO, Julian Quotbach from Utrecht University, and Paulina Amann from Nanofract. Thank you very much to all of you. And now I don't want to talk too long and look forward to the first talk by Pascal Diebold from ATEC Ultrasonic Systems and his talk about ultrasonic sieving and discharging, creating value in additive manufacturing, pre- and post-processing. Enjoy the talk.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Pascal Diebold from ATEC Ultrasonic Systems, and I'm really happy to welcome you to the presentation about ultrasonic sieving and discharging, enhancing powder flowability in additive manufacturing and pre- and post-processing. So let's have a look at the topic. How relevant is this topic? If you look at the growth numbers from Wohlers, the current graph shows you the revenue development from 1990 to 2024. So it is estimated that the total AM segment grew by 9.1% to over $21 billion. So the growth especially was associated in Asia, mainly in China, whereas Europe, Middle East, Americas are slightly stagnating or declining. So when you look at the growth sectors, the growth was especially high in the service provider sector, as well as in the software and materials sector. When we look at the materials sector in detail, about 2/3 of the powders is associated to polymer powders, whereas about 1/3 of the powders is metal powder. Overall, there was a little decrease in the AM system manufacturer sector, according to Wohlers. Nevertheless, as we can see from this graph, there is constant growth in the segment. It's very, very attractive. So let's have a look at the growth projection until 2033-34. Wohlers estimates the total AM segment to grow to up to $115 billion. So the key growth industries are health, aerospace, defense, and industrial. Let's have a look at the value chain. How is the AM segment operating? This is a very simplified view of the value chain. So basically, the raw material is sourced from the ground and then will be processed or manufactured within the powder manufacturing companies. So there it is already crucial to define which kind of powder are we talking about. Are we talking about metal powder, polymers? And this is also where ATEC or ultrasonic comes into place first. So we do help in the powder processing stage of the powder manufacturing process. Then the powder will be qualified according to the particle size and the quality. Once this is good, then the powder will enter the printing process. Yeah. So in the printing process, the powder will be filled into the printer, let's say, and then the 3D printer will print the parts. And within this process, there's also an integrated recycling process where also Artec can help as well to make sure the right powder goes into the recycling process. What we do as well, we help in the recycling process, in the, let's say, post-stressing process, to remove the rainy powder from printed parts, but I will explain this later on. After the print use, the printed parts will be disposed and hopefully recycled into the process again. So let's talk about Artec. Many of you guys have probably not heard Artec. It's a pretty small company. We are headquartered in Switzerland, in Romanshorn at the Lake of Constance. We do have a German warehouse in terms of logistics, and we were founded in 1991. We're a small team, pretty agile, but we are benefiting from an internal and external partner network. We are a member of the Crest Group. The Crest Group was established in 1961. It's a US corporation in New Jersey. And we are a member of several affiliates from the Crest Group. And the Crest Group is the leader in innovative ultrasonic cleaning, welding, and joining equipment. Totally, we are a team of about 900 people. So what makes Artec or our technology different? So the current state or the previous state was to go exactly into a defined resonance point and to bring parts into motion using a defined resonance. Artec, however, works within a frequency of 30 to 38 kilohertz. The ultrasonic generator scans the frequencies within the geometry and then logs into the highest point of that frequencies and sweeps around this point. By using this special technology, we call it frequency variation method, we are able to basically work with all geometries, metallic geometries. So we are very, very flexible. Yeah. What are the biggest problems in bulk handling? So the biggest problems in bulk handling from a bulk solids perspective, so this is very interesting probably for the PowerTech community overall and very well known. So on the left you see the demixing. That happens when the powder in the bulk solids handling equipment doesn't flow out of the system in the desired mix. Then we have the bridging, when above the outlet, mostly in the cone part, a bridge is built, yeah, so that the powder cannot flow and there is and will stick, yeah. So the same is with the rat holing. It's also a common problem when powder sticks on the surface of the inner walls, which causes the optimal flowability of the powder to decrease. In the sieving, process, the main problem is always the same. Is that when the particles come together and they end up on a sieve where the powder has to go through, because there are several processes in sieving. I will explain later, but the problem is always the same, that the particles stick in the mesh. Yeah, so this causes clogging or blinding, and Artec can help, or ultrasonic can help to get rid of the blinding and increase throughput. So we are working together with several OEMs and partners. So one is Zeppelin Systems. They have been conducting a study recently about the influence of ultrasonic on flow behavior of bulk solids. And the previous results indicate that ultrasonic may indeed reduce wall friction up to 60% for various bulk solids. So in which kind of industrial areas are we operating? So we are still in the powder manufacturing value chain. Remember the second part of the value chain of the AM segment value chain. So we do ultrasonic discharging, dosing, feeding, and so on. And we do also ultrasonic screening. Yeah. Let's have a look at the ultrasonic discharging. So on the left, you see a promo video where you can see that the powder, this is flour, is sticking above the outlet, building a nice bridge. And then we turn on the ultrasonic and the powder can easily, smoothly, without any noise, flow out of the cone. As you can see, we have to weld a waveguide to the outer wall, and then we can apply the sonic easily, and then the powder can be discharged. On the other hand, we can see on the right, this is titanium dioxide. The outlet is open, the bridge is formed, the ultrasonic goes on, and then the powder can easily be discharged. So we, because of the technology, we are able to work with several applications. So from silos, hoppers, spray towers, pipes, whatever. Whenever there's a problem in flow, we can make a trial and help. Yeah. So that's a really nice approach that we can just give it a try everywhere where flowability must be increased. We might be able to help. So when we look at the discharging sector, what are the influencing factors that are influencing the result? So first of all, is the material of the silo hopper or whatever. Is it like stainless steel? How big is it? Is it what's the diameter? How thick are the walls? How many sound points should we weld on the hopper or the silo? The temperature, let's say the humidity, very important for the powder, how it evolves or behaves, the size, and most importantly, the product properties. Yeah. So how is the product? What are the characteristics of the product, density, and so on, very important. And all those factors influence the outcome of our solution. Let's have a look at one of the field samples. So this is a discharging hopper, discharging aluminum oxide powder. So the problem here was that agglomerates build up on the inner walls of the cone. So that caused the quality issues for the end user because the agglomerates were falling down the pipe like snowballs into the final product. This was not desired by the customer. Accordingly, the customer, before using ultrasonic, had to clean the inside walls many times, and they used loud mechanical knockers and air, very energy inefficient technology. So with ultrasonic, we were able to ensure continuous flow. There was no more dive time, significantly reducing the ongoing operational costs. We could improve the product quality, no more cracks in the hopper, and overall the end customer was really happy because we could increase the overall yield for them. So compared to classical flow aids, the benefits are obvious. So continuous flow, almost completely residual emptying compared to mechanical knockers, for example. A high throughput rate, almost no noise because we work in a frequency of 30-38 kilohertz, almost not hearable. And the running costs are really low because the downtime can be reduced, and also the energy consumption is very low. Looking at the industrial sieving part of our business, this video illustrates a multi-deck tumbler sieving machine. So the main purpose of a multi-deck tumbler sieving machine is to classify powder according to different particle sizes. As you can see, the powder flows pretty poorly without ultrasonic, pretty slow. And now we attach ultrasonic to the sieves. And as you can see, this video to demonstrate that the throughput rate of the sieving process can be substantially increased. I'll show you some data later on about this. So as you can see, compared to before, the powder is going through much faster, which increases the separation efficiency as well. So that also increases the yield at the end. Yeah. So we work with several sieving machines, tumbler sieving machines, vibrating sieving machines, and yeah. Let's have a look at the field study. So this study was conducted by our Japanese colleague. As you can see, the problem was, as I outlined before, always the same. Was plugging. The sieve was plugging. The customer used this 700 millimeter diameter sieving machine, so not too big. The mesh opening was 38 microns, and the task was to reduce the clogging tendency and increase the throughput rate. So let's have a look at the results. As you can see from this graph, the x-axis shows you the minutes, and the y-axis the mass fraction in percent of the powder remaining on the sieve. Okay, so from 0 to 1 minute without ultrasonic, 60% of the powder was still remaining on the sieve, whereas with ultrasonic, only 30% was remaining on the sieve after 1 minute. After 5 minutes, about 30% of the 25% of the powder was remaining on the sieve without ultrasonic, and with ultrasonic already about 2% only remained on the sieve. After 10 minutes, without ultrasonic, still about 20% was remaining on the sieve, whereas with ultrasonic, less than 1% remained on the sieve. So this clearly shows that the ultrasonic helps regardless of the regardless of the powder, whether it's battery powder, metal powder, or polymers, to increase the throughput. So let's have a look at the benefits. Ultrasonic, as such, is the dominant technology when it comes to maximizing throughput rate and separation efficiency. What ARTEC does differently is that we do never have our components within the sieving area. So our converters are always outside the sieving area, and therefore our customers never have to fear any contamination. As well, our technology enables us to work with several kind of sieve designs. I will show you later on, and we are very versatile. Let's have a look at the next stage where ARTEC can help. So now we move from the powder manufacturing stage to the printing process. So we look at the process where the powder is printing from the 3D printer and recycled within this printer or as a peripheral station. So this video should demonstrate pretty easily that you guys understand it. As you can see on the top, the powder, in this case, this is powder that is already used in the printing process, is put in a recovery process on the top, and then this powder falls onto the sieve. And the job of the sieve, as we outlined before, is to ensure that the right particles move into the next phase. So the undesired particles move out of the outlet. So at the end of the day, the end user wants to reuse this powder from the printing process back in his printing process, okay? And another video shows on the right how fast ultrasonic can sieve powder, and that almost no powder remains at the end of the day, pretty fast. This is an integrated approach by one of our customers, showing that a sophisticated way how to recover powder from the 3D printing powder process. So I don't want to go too much into detail, but on the left you can see our generator here attached to the machine, and the cable with the converter here attached to the sieve. So the sieve's job is again to make sure the right particles go into the container that can be then reused in the printing process. So as you can see from this figure, the powder goes from the IM machine back to the recovery process, and over a buffer, and the vibrating cute then will be dosed into a ultrasonic screen. And then the ultrasonic screen makes sure that the oversized particle go as fast as possible, as precise as possible into the oversized container, and vice versa, the good powder into the good container. This is one of our customers in Switzerland, a young startup showing laser bed power fusion system. It's a very unique, compact system. So they are using a peripheral station. This is a pilot system. I'm just showing this for demonstration because it's not the final product, but it really nicely shows the ultrasonic process. So here is the powder that is recovered from the original printing process here. Yeah, on the below there is this container, then this container will be taken and put into the peripheral recovery station. The powder goes through the sieve, will be sieved, and then the good powder goes back into the system. So this is pretty easy. Next to the ultrasonic components, ARTEC is offering rectangular and round sieves for the integrated printing post-processing part of the value chain. As you can see from this picture, we offer several dimensions, and the waveguide, which is this part here, that allows the converter to excite the sonic to the sieve can be placed everywhere according to the specification. So you're very flexible in this way. And here are the round versions of the sieves. As you can see, also here we can supply several different sizes. We can supply without handles, with handles, and we can supply different meshings. So why is this so relevant? Why I'm showing you this? Because Artec has a special patent on this design. If you look at the sieve here on the right lower corner, the waveguide is screwed onto the inner ring of the sieve, and the sonic only will be applied to the inner ring where the mesh is glued upon. Okay, this allows the OEM to completely isolate the sieve, yeah, without sacrificing the sonic performance on the inner ring. Yeah, so we have already a lot of customers really like this design because it helps them to use less power than before, create very compact sieve designs, so they are able to sell even more compact machines. And why is it called cool sieve? Because the outer area always remains cool because it's decoupled from the inner area. Yeah, it's a bit technical, but it's pretty simple. At the end of the day, more compact design, less power needed on the sieve, and very efficient. We do have UL NFPA 79 certification. We can work with ATEX Zone 2122. Design can be made according to the machine, and easy installation retrofit possible. So existing machines can be retrofitted with our systems, and remeshing can take place wherever you like, freedom of choice. We are very flexible in this. So yeah, those are the benefits of the cool-sieve design. So let's go to the last part of the value chain where we can help. So we had the powder manufacturing value chain where we help to industrialize the powder manufacturing process while ultrasonic discharging and sieving. We helped in the printing process, and now we are in the post-processing. So once the parts are printed, then there is always remaining powder remaining on the printed part. Okay, and this is very valuable powder. So our end users really like to recover this powder. So there are different technologies on the marketplace, and nowadays also ultrasonic can help to almost completely remove the residual powder of the printed parts, and thereby the powder recovery can be maximized, yeah, increasing again the yield for the end customer. Again, no contamination because the parts are not within the area, very low energy consumption and low noise. So what do we offer at all? We are ultrasonic component supplier. We are not a machine builder, okay? So we offer generators, converters, cables, sieves, small sieves especially, and accessories, depending on your task. We're very happy to get in contact with you. Whatever your task is, I'm sure we can help you. Yeah, I'm already at the end. Hopefully it wasn't too boring after lunch. No, everyone is a bit tired, but hopefully it could wake you up a bit. And I'm very happy to answer any questions you may have. And if you want to get in contact with Artec, feel free. Visit our website, LinkedIn, and so on. And yeah.
Thank you very much for your talk, Pascal. As I can see, there are some questions. How does ultrasonic mitigate segregation or demixing due to differences in particle size or differences in density of the product?
Very good question. I believe this is about the discharging process. So what ultrasonic does, ultrasonic does not really impact the inner powder mix. Yeah, ultrasonic, what Artec does is only we apply the sonic to the walls of the geometry, and thereby the wall friction will be reduced. So if the powder can can flow continuously in the discharging or in the cone or in the silo, once the outlet is open, then in many cases there is even no demixing possible because the whole powder can flow in the same motion out of the outlet cone. I hope this helps.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question. For which mesh sizes does ultrasonic screening make sense?
It always depends on the powder. So for metal powders, we mostly work with 63 to 120 microns. 45 microns also sometimes. Basically, we say from 20 microns is possible with metal powder mesh opening. And for polymers, we mostly work with 150 microns mesh and also 245 micron meshes.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. Can ultrasonic agitators be attached to glass vessels?
Unfortunately, ultrasonic, at least with our approach, only works with aluminium or stainless steel. So no glass or plastics or something else.
Okay. So thank you. If you have further questions, you can get in contact with Pascal via LinkedIn. So thank you very much for your talk, Pascal. And now we continue with Klaus Kilian from AZO and his talk about integrated powder management for additive manufacturing, metal and polymer. You can look forward to an exciting talk. Enjoy.
So, hello and good afternoon from my side. It's really a pleasure to be part of the virtual talk today. And it was, I would say, a perfect match together with Artec in the same session. So therefore, yeah, really a pleasure. Thanks to the Powtech team to invite us for the session today. You can hear and you see my presentation, hopefully.
We can see you.
Okay.
At the moment, maybe it's loading.
Okay. Still loading?
Still loading.
Couldn't see the ASO screen?
No, we cannot see you again. So maybe you try it again. Yet now it's loading. We have the black screen now. So now we can see the AZO logo.
Okay, as always, as always. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, let's start. Yeah, my name is Klaus Kilian. I'm the technical director for the AM business at ASO today. I will talk about integrated powder management, and as already mentioned by Herrn Diebold, yeah, it's a lot of details already shown. He showed all the numbers, so therefore I don't have to show numbers and would step in directly. What is ASO? Just let me introduce ASO in some short screens here. ASO was founded in 1949. We had a big party last year. Yeah? It's still family-owned business within the third generation. And in the meantime, we do have around about 1,100 employees worldwide. These are based in 10 different companies worldwide in the ASO group. And the overall turnover is around about 200 million. What is ASO doing? ASO, I would say our passion is powder handling. Means we are handling the powders in the plants, in the production plants, from the incoming goods through the whole process to the value-added process in terms of mixers, kneaders, and for today's discussion, 3D printing systems. And in between here, we have all the conveying, storing, screening, transporting, weighing, controlling, and monitoring and automation of these powders. We have a wide range of businesses. We are organized in different business units, always looking for the end product, starting with the food department. This is our base. We started in the bakery industry 76 years ago, which contains everything what's in around the bakery, baking mixes, spices, flavors, and so on. Next part is so-called vital, which is on the pharmaceutical business, dairy industry, confectionery, and so on. And on the non-food part, we have two different divisions. One is chem, which is containing cosmetics, personal care, cleaning agents, construction materials, and as well the additive manufacturing metal part. And last but not least, the polymer industry, looking for compounding, PVC, dry blends, and so on, as well as the additive manufacturing for the polymers. So there's a combination here. Okay, looking for the additive manufacturing world, and let me start with the metal part here. There's a big landscape on different processes in 3D printing. We are mainly focusing on the powder-based processes like binder jetting, powder bed fusion, and so on and so on. This is our strength and this is our know-how, so therefore this is our concentration. Yeah, metal powders, there are a lot of different challenges in the metal powder industry, in the additive manufacturing. We have very fine and always very heavy powders compared to other industries. Very fine, already mentioned by Mr. Diepol for the screening systems. Yeah, we have a lot of reactive powders, which has to be protected against the atmosphere. We have a lot of powders, metal powders, which are explosive. Yeah, so therefore protection is needed. And we have to protect also the operators, because a lot of the metal powders are CMR, means cancer causing, or could cause cancer. We are talking about very expensive materials, so therefore loss-free use is a must. And we have to ensure the quality in the processes, because the printers are only working within perfect materials. And so therefore, this is one of the biggest challenges. And the printers, as we know, we have long printing jobs, 24 hours, 48 hours, and so on. We have to take care of the tear-free material feed to the printers. This is not typical to I would say, a normal powder process. And talking about metal powders, they could be abrasive, depending what you have. But therefore, we have also protect the equipment itself due to abrasion and so on. How do we do this? Let me have some words on what I'm going to show you. I would show you some concepts, principal concepts, solution, not going too much in detail, because then I will, yeah, time is not enough. How does it look like typically on the metal powder part? We do have always a point of putting in new powders. We do have always a point where we are getting unpacking powder when the print job is done. We are collecting all the materials on one point. And this is special with an integrated system. That's not an offline system, that's an inline system, because we are also picking up the overflow. Combine it together in a receiving unit, prepare it again in terms of dosing and screening, and have a perfect powder then afterwards, which could be then sent to the printer again. So therefore, single printer feeding shown here, completely inline, no loss of material, because everything is inline as a closed loop for the powder, completely automated. There's a base system here. If you go a step ahead, this could be done as well as for multi-printer feeding, we call it. Means we have one centralized station for preparation of the powders, and out of that we could feed several printers depending how big the printers are and so on. Always a difference in terms of, okay, what kind of incoming packaging do we have? This is flexible. Even so, how many breakout stations do we have for the unpacking? This could be combined, everything in one central preparation system. Yeah, depending if you have just one metal powder, this is perfect. If you would have several metal powders, then we need a separate station, but looks then nearly the same. Specialty here, talked about already about explosive and reactive powders. Specialty here is that we have also an inline system which is completely under inerted atmosphere, and also the closed loop for the nitrogen is given in terms of saving nitrogen usage, and therefore this is completely protected system in terms of explosion of the powders, and also for the reactive powders, which will be then completely protected against the atmosphere. That's just an overview. How could look like a system could look like, for example, for that, for a multi printer feeding, we have a incoming station here, actually using a glove box for the small drums, which are very common in the industry here, with buffering stations, and then central preparation station, which could feed then several printers, including a gas management, which will then serve the printers in a perfect way. To give a more or less detailed example for a high-end system, which has been designed and produced with a partner of us, with an OEM partner, and we are allowed to show this here. Complete, highly automated system for a single printer feeding, which is a LPBF process with a defined throughput. And the system is flexible in terms of the metal powders here. We just have to do a parametrization for a special powder. No interaction in terms of mechanical modification or something like that. And with the system itself, yeah, we have a powder handling under nitrogen atmosphere, a closed circuit for the low nitrogen usage, as well as removable of the powders in the glove box. So operator protection is always given, product protection is always given, and explosion protection is also given all the time. Okay, and you do see here ultrasonic sieving, so therefore the introduction from Mr. Diebold was perfect. How does it look like? Just to get a little bit more details here. How does it look like? Here we have a central dump station for the powders with the small drums, so-called glove box module, which is connected to the system here, to our printing module, as well as a screening module. So therefore, again, product protection, operator protection, powder return is possible and done, completely protected and connected to the system itself. Even so, here we have our so-called screening module with the full reuse of the powders. Also quality assurance and screening is given here. Here, this is a very special design because it's nearly integrated in the printer. So therefore, it's one common system and direct feeding of the printer for the print shop here. Always inline, so nothing to do with. It's working for itself and just has to refill the missing powder by the glove box. Also, the unpacking is done in the system, also in the closed loop. Here, in that example, we are unpacking in the printer itself, yeah, which is a little bit special, but always under controlled conditions here. So that's for the metal. Just want to give you some examples how the system has to look like, how the system for integrated system are looking like. And as I said, just giving examples how we are working on that. So, and the next package is the polymer, because we are considering also the polymer, which is a little bit different. And again, the landscape here is just one part for us, which is powder or pellet based, which we are considering here and which we could serve with our systems here. Challenges in the polymer, it looks a little bit different. as always, yeah, we have a very fine polymer powders which are not easy to handle. We have to supply also single and multi printers, but we do have an increase of powder because we are getting bigger printers, and most of the time, looking in today's situation, also in the future, we are expecting really print factories with several printers, even which has to be fed then from one system. And yeah, ergonomics for the operators is always a question here. With these volumes we are actually facing, this couldn't be done completely by hand. So in the print factory, there's an integrated system needed for feeding and for recovering the powders. Again here, loss-free use of the powders. Always also in the polymer industry, it's a high cost pressure in production and in terms of efficiency. So therefore, there's a need on that. Ensuring the powder quality means clear foreign bodies is not allowed. Agglomerates, homogeneity is one of the most critical issues in a printer. If you look at the printing process, and here on the polymer powder, there's an additional issue, which is static load of the powder. That's typical for a polymer powder. It's getting static load on it, and you have to get rid of that because the printer couldn't work with a static load, and the powders will not work. Again, some overview, some possible concepts here we are working on and we are going to deliver. We have also our incoming goods here, typically are big bags or bags, which will be fed then in a mixing process with a scale. So we are generating here a recipe with new powder and used powder breakout, and as well as from the overflow. It's yeah, always a different requirement from the printers, how much new powder has to be used, how much used powder could be used. So therefore, this is going to have a recipe inside here, depending on the quality of the powders, and then prepare it in the right way, go to a sieving process because no agglomerates, no foreign particles are allowed, and could feed then the printer in a proper way. Also, possibility single printer feeding as well as multi-printer feeding, very similar to the metal powder process, and different designs and different requirements. But here we are more or less looking also for bigger print factories, because yeah, here we do see a much higher possibility for printer factories. Okay. Looks very similar. There are different applications in here. For example, the incoming virgin powders typically delivered in big bags or in bags, which are then different stations here. We have a lot more buffering stations in here because of the throughput, and also because of the mixing and moisturing of the material. But at the end, we are going to feed several printers. Also here, some buffer stations in front of the mixer, which in front of the printer, which is very important, which makes the difference then to the metal powder systems. Yeah, I'm nearly through. What do we see here with the features we do have inside here? Automated and closed feeding system, which is important, as I said, as an integrated system, minimizing dust and so on. These systems are all tailored, means each printer needs to have an own system or an own connection and has its own philosophy. So therefore, we have our basis designs, and this is something we are going to then tailor to the customer's request, or even on the service provider's request. How is the structure, the internal structure? We could supply here the complete system as a turnkey solution, because we are going to do also the control system here. We are always looking for gentle conveying, because due to protection of the equipment itself, but also protecting the powder. Powder quality, one of the highest issues here. we could do the tracking and tracing, and the service worldwide is given. So therefore, we do see with this integrated systems, integrated concepts, a lot of advantages here, and also benefits for our customers, for maybe you. Yeah. Okay, that was really a quick run through what we are going to do and what we are providing for the metal powder additive manufacturing and also for the polymer systems. A little bit different with its own challenges. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kilian. So if you have further questions, please use our F&A button. Maybe while you're thinking about your question, we start with the first one we have. So, Mr. Kilian, how can the powder management system ensure that the metal powder arrives at the printer in appropriate quality and without wear and tear on the plant technology?
Yeah, there are several issues. First of all, we have to provide a proper quality of the powder, which is typically given through a proper sieving unit inside here. Sometimes we need also a mixing cycle or a drying cycle, depending on the printing process, which will be then integrated in the system itself. And the next point is, okay, we have to protect also the equipment, because if you're talking about different metals, titanium or whatever, you could get in trouble with abrasion in the piping, in the hoppers and so on. So everything what we are going to do there for conveying, it's a very slow conveying. And this is very good experience over the last few years, that we are not going to damage the piping and so on with high conveying speed. And so therefore we could supply the powder in the correct way to the printer over long term.
Okay, thank you. Then we have another question. What is the biggest challenge when handling explosion critical metal powders?
That's pretty a good question, because this is one of our biggest discussion with our customers or service providers. When we are getting a metal powder is addressed to us, we have to look for the data in terms of explosion. In principle, our explosion protection concept is mainly based on an inerted system. But in an inerted system, you have to monitor the oxygen level. But in most of the cases, you're not getting a maximum level of oxygen to protect the explosion in the powder. So therefore, we are mainly considering a maximum oxygen level of 2% in the whole system, but you have to monitor this. And this is really in the systems itself, it's really a big challenge, because the tightness of the system and the usage of the nitrogen is a challenge. So therefore, you need the safe monitoring and so on. This is really one of the biggest challenges here.
Okay, then we have a last question for the moment.
Mhm.
How critical is the handling of polymer powders in additive manufacturing?
In principle, the polymer powders is much easier to handle in the system itself, because it's more closer to I would say normal powders, yeah. But as always, a but, it's very fine, yeah. And it like to agglomerate, and as already mentioned in the presentation, there is a critical path here in terms of electrostatic load in the powder, which is in the nature of the polymer powder. If you move it somehow, it is getting electrostatic load on it, and you have to get rid of that. There are two different approaches here. First is, okay, we need to take measurements that the electrostatic load is getting rid of the electrostatic load very close to the printer in a very short time. This is one issue. There are special design features in here to allow this. And at the end, we are going to a very slow conveying system, not getting, again, electrostatic load in the powder, which will cause some trouble in the printer itself.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kilian, for your interesting insights. Dear participants, if you have further questions, I'm sure you can contact Mr. Kilian maybe via LinkedIn, or you can contact us, the PowTech team, and we will make sure you will get in contact with him. So thank you very much, Mr. Kilian.
Thank you.
And now we continue with Julian Quodbach from Utrecht University and his talk about future perspectives, additive manufacturing for personalized medicines. The stage is yours.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm just gonna start the presentation. I think I have to swap, and now you should be able to see the screen properly. So my talk is a little different because I'm looking at a very different application. So my pre-speakers have spoken and about detailed solutions for established 3D printing processes, additive manufacturing processes for different industries already. And the translation of additive manufacturing to the pharmaceutical sector is a little different. So first of all of you that are listening now, you have certainly been sick at some point or another, and you may think, okay, why is it even necessary to go to 3D printing technologies, additive manufacturing to supply patients? And I like to start with that slide, because the reason for why until now it has not really been necessary to go to more advanced manufacturing technologies has been that patients have been perceived as a more or less blurry, more or less homogeneous mass, right? So we assume that providing 2, 3, 4 different dosages of a given medication to all the patients basically that take it is sufficient. Now in the last, I would say 10 to 20 years, we are learning more and more and begin to actually see the individuals as they are with their individual needs and requirements for medication. Already for a while it has been known, or it's known that depending on your enzyme status, how quickly you metabolize certain drugs, you may adjust the dosages, as you see here in this graph. So here, for the drug venlafaxine, for example, on the very left, you see that for patients with a certain enzymatic activity, you have to give 180% of the standard dose. For patients with a very low enzymatic activity, you have to give 20% of the standard dosage. And as this is not only a few classes but a sliding scale, it may be necessary to provide 25 or 35 or 45% of those drugs. If we do this, if we adhere to those kind of individualization approaches, it's possible, so this is highlighted here on the bottom, to reduce adverse drug reactions by 30%, which is a lot, greatly improving the quality of life of patients, but also reducing sick days. And also, what is quite interesting, and some of you may not know, is that women on average suffer from nearly twice as many adverse drug reactions as men, because typically only men, or primarily men, are reflected in clinical trials. And worst, because it's known for the longest time already, is that children are not little adults. So if you have a certain medication that is prescribed to adults based on their weight, it's impossible to just take a fraction of that drug based on the child's weight and administer it that way. So for pediatric patients, we need dedicated medication. And including all of those concepts is this, the overarching framework of personalized medicines, which the European Medical Agency describes of using the individual's phenotypes and genotypes. So basically the enzyme status, your metabolic status, different technologies, lifestyle data for tailoring the right therapeutic strategy for the right person at the right time. With the potential challenge that it may be necessary to manufacture medication for an individual patient. In many cases, it will be larger patient groups, but in very critical cases, it can be necessary to manufacture a medication, an oral medication, for one individual patient. And there is a certain target conflict with how medications are manufactured currently. Because in the last, let's say, 100 years, similar to all other manufacturing industries, manufacturing has been streamlined. So modern tablet presses can typically manufacture hundreds of thousands of tablets per hour. If we have powder processing, for example, here a granulation process, batch size is frequently above a ton. If you're filling capsules in modern capsule filling machines, it's hundreds of thousands of capsules per hour as well. And this is indeed a problem because none of those technologies can be used to manufacture small batches or individual batches without losing a lot of material and being completely uneconomic. And this is then where 3D printing comes in. This is just a transition slide showing the different technologies that exist. And there are, of course, more subvariants available. And for pharmaceutical 3D printing, we are looking, or it's possible to consider two different strategies of manufacturing. One at the point of care, so close to the patient, which could be a hospital pharmacy, which could be a community pharmacy, or centralized manufacturing, which could be compounding centers, as we do have in the Netherlands. So here we have larger centers that are able to manufacture individual medication manually for a larger group of patients and supply those to others. In Germany, this is not possible. Or centralized could also mean industrial manufacturing. And depending on where you want to manufacture at the point of care or centralized, it's like a direction and what technology you may want to choose. For point of care, extrusion-based technologies are more promising. For centralized centralized manufacturing, the powder-based technologies are interesting. Here we have total 4 technologies. I will also go into some variants and proprietary technologies later on, but currently we are investigating most within the field of fused deposition modeling and semi-solid extrusion for the extrusion-based technologies, and binder jetting and selective laser sintering for the powder-based technologies. I guess that most of you know the different technologies, right? In fused deposition modeling, we have a filament that is melted, plastified, and then the layers, the object is built up layer by layer. Here, the main challenge is in the manufacturing of the drug-containing powder, because instead of those high-performance polymers that can be used in commercial 3D printing applications, additive manufacturing applications, we need to use monographed pharmaceutical quality polymers that have very different properties. They were not developed to form a continuous filament. They were developed for very different powder-based processes or melt-based processes, but certainly not for this. And the manufacturing process of those filaments is quite challenging. And at the moment, there are no commercial filaments available that are drug-containing. Semi-solid extrusion can be considered the actually more simplified cousin of fused deposition modeling. You just have a semi-solid loaded into a syringe or into a gently heatable cartridge. You have a stepper motor that extrudes the material out of the nozzle, and then we are building up the 3D printed object. So here in this video from the company Fabrics, a company that manufactures pharmaceutical 3D printers, you see how a nozzle or a printer is depositing the drug-loaded hydrogel that will then be dried afterwards to manufacture an individualized dosage form. This technology is much more versatile than the fused deposition modeling I talked before, because for this, the starting material that we need is a semi-solid, which is something that most pharmacists or all pharmacists generally have a very good understanding of in their capability, and this is in their toolbox of realizing also in-house. And for the semi-solid extrusion are already quite a few printers on the market for pharmaceutical applications. Here I just show a selection of different manufacturers. And you can buy them, and all of them have their different approach to pharmaceutical point of care printing. Purify Labs is offering a more or less closed system where you can only, where you don't have the freedom to make your own formulations. Fabrics and Dozer give you complete freedom for formulation and process development. So it's basically a different approach on how you want to realize your formulation, how you want to cater to your patients in the end. And what you can do with those technologies, these are just some pictures from studies that we did in our lab. There are tablets loaded with imatinib mesylate, which is an anti-cancer drug that is used especially in the treatment of pediatric patients, of children, where there are hardly any dosages available, or basically the lowest available dosage is still higher than the highest dosage that we need for a lot of the children that get treated with this kind of drug. So here we were able to repurpose commercial formulations into different dosage forms of different dosages to really individualize the dosage for those patients. It's also possible to print mucoadhesive dosage forms, as we did here for cats, containing buprenorphine, an opioid painkiller that is used especially post-surgeries, because cats are not well communicating patients, as some of you may know, so they are not really able to convey pain. And typically it's assumed that cats are severely undertreated. And the interesting part is that, well, besides those studies that we did, and also a lot of other people did, there are also more and more studies coming out where this technology is translated into patients. So the top study shown here is about a bioequivalency study that was conducted at Leiden University here in the Netherlands. Here, this is a study from the Gustave Roussy Hospital in Paris, also an oncological clinic, where they make a combination product of 2 anti-cancer drugs and provide it to patients. And this is a study where they actually have implemented a 3D printer in a community pharmacy, and they are dispensing the semi-solid formulation into capsules very accurately, much faster and more accurate than the typical capsules that are prepared by hand, and they're provided to patients. However, this for me is a very different field to discuss, are the powder-based technologies. All of you, I'm sure, know how powder-based technologies work. Creating a thin powder layer and then either using a binder or a laser to solidify this powder layer. And on binder jetting, not a lot of research has been done, to be honest. So there are only a handful of studies that consider pharmaceutical binder jetting. I think this can be for multiple reasons, because we have to formulate multiple formulations for one process. So we need to have a well-flowing and spreading powder formulation containing the drug substance, and we have to have a good binder formulation that can be printed accurately. And again, we cannot use most of the materials that are commonly used for this technology, because we have to stick to the materials that are approved for human use and human ingestions and are monographed in the different players. Here you see some of the printed formulations in the top right, also on the bottom left. And you see that there are also a typical industrial 3D printer was used. However, not a lot of research, as I mentioned, is done on this. More research is done actually on selective laser sintering or laser-based powder fusion, where a laser is used to solidify the polymer and drug mixture. And this is a video from the printer that we have in our lab. So it's a modified metal-based printing system, modified in the sense that the laser is a different one. So we are printing with between 0.1 watts and 5 watts, which is better for the drug substances that we are using, but also for the polymers that we are using. Because of we certainly don't want to have any drug degradation because of the laser irradiation. And here in the video, you can then see how the laser scans over the powder bed where the tablets are. It's sintering, or in this case, actually melting the particles together. And then now a new powder layer is slowly created on top of it. And then the process continues from the beginning. I'm quite happy with this technology because I think it has certain advantages over the commercial manufacturing technologies. Not only that it can cater to individuals, but it is also possible to use very simple formulation. So for most formulations that we have looked into, we are only using the drug substance, the pure drug substance, and a binder that can be a polymer or another thermoplastic material. Then we're also adding silicon dioxide, typically as glidant, to improve the flowability. We are mixing it, and then we are directly ready to print. And we only see very limited segregation of the powder particles during the printing process. However, that doesn't mean that we have to stick with very simple formulations. Together with the company GLAD, we are looking into the benefits of powder engineering. So in this case, for example, to increase the drug loading, because if we are only physically mixing drug and polymer, we need a quite high amount of polymer to get to hard tablets with low friability that have a certain mechanical strength. However, if we take the drug, then we dissolve the polymer in a possible solvent or in a suitable solvent, and we spray coat the particles with it. It's possible to go to much higher drug loadings because the polymer is much better distributed throughout the powder, and then also throughout the printed matrix in the end. So in this case, we were able to realize a drug loading of 90%. And we're also learning a lot more about the powder properties that are important for pharmaceutical additive manufacturing. So of course, the particle size distribution is of key importance, so is the flowability. But we are now also using 3D imaging to determine the roughness of the surface, and also using it for error detection. So this you see on the bottom right. So you have the PA12 powder, highly engineered powder for SLS printing, very smooth surface, very little variation in the height. Whereas if we use mannitol, as shown in this case, in this picture, you see a much rougher surface structure with a wider particle size distribution and also a less homogeneous spreadability. And when we use thermal imaging, we also see here, you see the influence of the material temperature based on the scan speed of the powder. So you have increasing scan speed of the laser. You see that the temperature is clearly changing depending on the energy input. And we're learning that the heat capacity of the polymer has a very high influence on the process, so does the viscosity. None of this is surprising. All of this is well known. None of this is known in the pharmaceutical field, so we have to build up a lot of knowledge, well, from scratch by learning from people that have done it before. But this has to be established to really demonstrate that the technology is a feasible one for pharmaceutical manufacturing. So until now, everything that I have shown was more academic, right? So, or actually clinical applications of it. However, there are also industrial companies involved in pharmaceutical 3D printing. I'm just going to briefly highlight who they are and what technologies they use. The first one on the top, Aprecia Pharmaceuticals, is probably the best known in the pharmaceutical field. They were the first company to get the FDA approval for a 3D printed drug, Spritam, a tablet that is used to create an oral suspension. They disintegrate very rapidly, and they are using a proprietary, highly developed binder jetting process that can be used continuously. They have developed this further to also print in blisters right away to also get a nicer surface finish. So quite advanced where they are. A completely different approach is presented by Luxon Medical, shown here on the bottom. They are using a screen printing approach. So additive manufacturing using screen printing, the same technology that is used to print colorful prints on t-shirts, really squeezing ink through a screen multiple times on top of each other. They have paired up with the company Adare in Italy. They have a GMP facility now installed in Italy, and they have a comparably high throughput if you compare it at least to the traditional additive manufacturing technologies that I spoke about before. And they can also build in additional features, safety features, anti-counterfeiting features for critical medication by, for example, printing on the QR code that can be scanned to validate the truthfulness, the correctness of the medication. And what I really like is that they're able to manufacture mini tablets. Mini tablets are tablets that have a diameter of about 2 millimeters, sometimes 1 to 3 millimeters, so quite different. sizes compared to what you're used to. And they have demonstrated that they can create up to 3 compartment tablets using this technology. So 3 different drugs can be implemented in a single mini tablet, and then you can individualize the dosage for a given patient by taking different amounts of those mini tablets. And then the last company I would like to highlight is TriasTech. It's a Chinese company that is using hot melt extrusion, so the continuous feeding process. They're feeding API and excipient, again, mostly polymer, into a twin screw extruder, then into a dedicated print head. And then they're printing the extruded or the hot melt extruded mass to 3D printed medications. They are not looking into individualizing medication. They're using the ability of connecting multiple extruders to print combination products or to make products that have drug targeting for the large intestine or the small intestine to really deliver drugs at the site where it's most necessary. They at the moment have 3 INDs, so investigational new drug product approvals, 2 by the US, and 2 with the Chinese government. But this is just to show that, well, 3D printing in its variety is coming to the pharmaceutical space. It will never be used to manufacture ibuprofen or aspirin. I'm very certain of that. But at the same time, it is finding its place there, and it's slowly getting translated to patients. So I hope that I was able to demonstrate, well, very roughly in a very top level sense, that 3D printing is a set of very capable technologies also for point of care manufacturing and industrial manufacturing of medicines, not only for prototypes or other individualized products. It's extremely well suited for personalization, where I would think that the extrusion-based technologies are probably the best choice, and then mass customization or also clinical trial medication, within the powder-based technologies are taking the lead. We are learning or have learned that most pharmaceutical excipients are working quite well, I have to say. Certainly there are some exemptions, but generally we have a quite wide array of materials that we can use. However, we still have to understand how to use them properly and to optimize processes for those kind of technologies. So unlike the printing in other industries where it's quite easily possible that a very expensive printer only sees one single material throughout its lifetime, we are looking at a very flexible use of this technology, of these technologies, looking at dozens or hundreds of powder mixtures that may be used on a single system. I demonstrated that the translation to patients is currently ongoing at the point of care. Industrially, it's not really at the moment. And I guess this is true for all set of technologies. There are different pros and cons for all of those that I have mentioned just now. There is not just one technology for all use cases that can be used independent of material characteristics and so on. And certainly there are remaining some regulatory questions that are quite demanding and pressing to answer before it can be translated. And now before ending, I would like to highlight the Pharma 3DPI, which is the pharmaceutical 3D printing initiative. It's a non-profit of which I'm one of the board members, which if you're interested into pushing the boundaries or developing pharma 3D printing further, you're very welcome to join us, to support us, to collaborate with us. And we're also organizing our first in-person event in mid of July, looking at global regulations for pharmaceutical 3D printing. And if you have any questions about any of what I just said, well, I'm looking forward to answer them or try to answer them. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your interesting talk. And I would currently open the F&A session. So please feel free and use the button. And we start with the first question. So I just pick them here. First one, the processes you showed are quite different from established pharmaceutical processes. Do currently available excipients meet the demands of these processes?
Yeah, as I said, Most of them do, however, especially so most of them do because we are processing them further before we use them, especially in the extrusion-based technologies. If we go to the powder-based technologies, of course, a lot of the pharmaceutical polymers have been engineered to show quite good flowability. However, the spreadability and the flowability are quite connected, but not the same. So we would be happy to see more powder particle engineering that enables better spreadability of the polymers for those kind of processes.
Okay, thank you. And then we have another question. Are these process steps that require novel equipment or developments because of the different properties of printed medication?
Definitely. So here I would say that primarily in the powder-based technologies, we are creating dosage forms that are more fragile than tablets that you know from ibuprofen or paracetamol or whatever, right? Tablets are very strong, very sturdy, not very friable. And the same is true for most of the objects that are typically created via laser-based powder sintering. So here we are looking at objects that, if they are sieved or dedusted, can already lose parts of part of the structure that constitutes the tablet. So we are looking for quite a gentle dedusting approaches that we're currently doing manually. But of course, if we're printing 10,000 tablets in a larger batch, this is not feasible to do manually. And there are actually collaborations or new developments are necessary to develop such kind of technologies that are currently definitely lacking. For the extrusion-based technologies, I would say we are quite well set with the technologies that are currently available.
Okay, so thank you very much for your interesting talk. Dear participants, if you have further questions, please feel free to contact us, the PowTech team, or Mr. Quodbach directly via LinkedIn, maybe. So thank you. Now, last but not least, we have another interesting talk for you from Paulina Amann from NanoFract with her topic, New Powder Technologies Expand the Possibilities of Additive Manufacturing. The stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. I will share the presentation. Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paulina Amann, and I'm a co-founder of NanoFract, a startup originated from the University of Magdeburg in the field of mechanical process engineering. And this year we are also a part of a PowTech fair, and you can find us as a joint Young Innovation stand. Today I want to present our company on the topic expanded possibilities in 3D printing thanks to new powder technologies. In the next 20 minutes, I would like to cover the following points. At the first step, I will briefly introduce our business activities. And then at the second step, I will in detail describe our innovative technologies. The first one is the NanoFract jet milling technology, and the second is a particle coating technology. At the third step, I will show you how our technologies have contributed to the creation of advanced materials for additive manufacturing techniques, for example, fused filament production or selective laser sintering. And the first example is polymer metal soft magnetic filaments and powders. And then the second is conductive and thermally stable filaments and powders. The third one is a graphite magnetite powder, for example, for electrodes production using additive manufacturing. And the fourth one, which is still in the development, but already partially tested by us in the, for example, multi-layered metamaterials for medical applications. And the first point, I want to describe how our fine grinding, or also called micronization, has contributed to the production of additives for 3D printing materials, especially the nanoparticles made from polymers. And the last but not least, I will briefly discuss how our technologies have contributed to the use of recycled materials for additive manufacturing. Our business is based on 4 fields. The first one is the contract grinding of different materials from soft to stiff. Then we construct and produce mills on customer demand. As a third area, we develop composite materials and processes which are customer oriented. And with the fourth area, we mix or mechanically or mechanically alloy different materials together into the composites using our innovative particle coating technology. Now I directly go to our innovative jet milling technology. Here you can see how our typical production line using this technology looks like. Usually we receive raw material as granules, usually polymers. They are inserted directly into the conveying chamber. After that, they reach the grinding chamber directly, where they are milled to the size from 200 up to 10 microns. After that, we conduct optionally sieving to obtain more narrow particle size distributions. And at the last step, we repeat the grinding to obtain particles from 10 micrometers or at nanoscale. This slide shows you our main advantages of our jet milling technologies. On the photo, you see, for example, the PVC plastics milled by our technology compared to the PVC milled, which is cryogenically milled using common ball mills available on market. And it is clearly shown that our particles obtained by our technology have more round form, have also smoother surface, and generally integrate compared to the, for example, cryogenically milled particles, which make them suitable for additive manufacturing applications. The second advantage is that our jet milling technology is adjustable for almost all types of polymers, particularly polymers used for additive manufacturing, like ABS, nylon, PEEK, polyamide 66, TPU, PPSU, or others. And our main advantage is here that due to this flexibility, we have a full control of particle size, of particle morphology or particle form, and particle surface. And these all properties are important in the additive manufacturing area. Currently, we have projects with on micro and nano plastics with Plastics Europe, research institutes like TNO or Swiss Institute for Acoustic Research, and a startup for microplastic detection, Zaitros. Now I want to briefly describe our second innovative technology, which is called particle coating technology. With this technology, we mechanically or mechanically alloy different materials together in one composite material, for example, plastic, metals, ceramics, nanocarbon materials, rare earth elements in one reactor to create multi-layered particles. Usually the carrier particles are metal or polymer, and usually covered with nanoparticles, nanocarbons, or rare earth elements. On the right-hand side, you see an example. It's an aluminum particle covered with carbon nanotubes. And currently we have a project with the Max Planck Institute on the mechanical alloying. Now I want to show you how our technologies, both grinding and particle coating technologies, have already contributed to creation of advanced materials for additive manufacturing production, for example, for fused filament production or selective laser sintering. And the first example is the polymer metal, a soft magnetic filament and powders. With our both technologies, we were able to create a composite soft magnetic powder. And then we have already extruded a soft magnetic filament from it, which has 78% of metal particles. We have already printed some parts from it and tested them, for example, in the form of small electric motors. Here are main advantages compared to the alternatives which were found on the market. On the market, we have found the only alternative for soft magnetic filament is PLR iron filament, which is corrosive and only suitable for hobbies or maybe home decoration. And compared to this, the polymer created, the composite polymer created by us show no moisture absorption because metal particles are tightly coated with the plastics, so there is no space between particles, which made it this material suitable for industrial applications. The other example found on the market were soft magnetic semi-finished standard products like plastic metal pipes. Yes, and due to the simple production techniques or certain production techniques, you can only make simple parts from them. And the main advantage of our technology is that the parts created with our materials are magnetic throughout the whole volume, and they are suitable for many additive manufacturing production techniques, so that you can obtain any complex geometry of a part. And now I turn to the next example, is the conductive and thermally stable filament and powder. On the right-hand side, you see our first prototype made from a composite PPS-based conductive filament. And so on the right-hand side, the plastic part made from them, printed from it, which due to its electrical properties can be coated with a paint. And the main advantages here are a high temperature resistance. The melting point is higher than 280 degrees compared, for example, to common conductive PLA filaments. And the main advantage is that component is electrically conductive throughout the whole volume. For example, compared to copper wires, which are usually elaborately produced or built into the component. And now I turn to the third example of advanced materials, which was obtained with our Bose technologies. This is graphite magnetite powder and for energy storage applications. We have already developed the first electrodes from it. Initially, we tested its electrical capacitance, but due to nanocarbons inserted in it, it has also the high electrical conductivity. And combined with magnetite, it's also thermally stable. And it is also comparable with the elaborately produced nanostructures only at lab scale. And we can ensure here a mass production in the scalable quantities. The last example of our advanced materials for additive manufacturing are metamaterials for electromagnetic wave manipulations. The metamaterials are usually a multi-layered powder materials with multiple layers on it. And on the right-hand side, you see the object covered with a metamaterial, where electromagnetic waves bypass an object covered with a metamaterial layer. And here you can see that there is no field inside the object, and behind the object, the field is slightly distorted. Compared, for example, to the unprotected object, where an electromagnetic wave interacts with an object itself. And inside the object, the field has a significant amplitude, and behind the object, the field is strongly distorted. For this topic, we look for cooperation partners, and the next step is the development of multi-layer structures using our technology and test by the partners. Now I want to sum up the third chapter of my presentation and outline the main customer benefits using our technologies. The first main benefit is obvious weight reduction due to the plastic component in the matrix. Then due to additive manufacturing technologies, you can obtain complex geometries. Our particles are made usually from advanced polymers, and they have a high lifetime. Our customers can save energy, resources, and reduce their waste. Additionally, we provide services like finite element simulation and also material consultants. At the first part of my presentation, I want to cover the topic which is called a biodegradable micro and nanopolymers powder for additive manufacturing. Due to our unique fine grinding technology, we can reduce the particles up to nearly 100 nanometers. And here are some applications. These powders can be used as additives for 3D printing applications, for example, SLS or stereolithography additives. And the possible markets are, for example, biodegradable implants, tissue scaffolds, or surgical meshes, which are directly printed, or, for example, drug delivery devices, which were described, for example, previously by a previous reporter. And here are some advantages of our micro and nanopolymer powders used for medical applications. And the first main advantage is that low contamination levels under 1 volume%, which is lower than, for example, by nanoparticles, which are obtained through common chemical methods, synthetic methods. And we also provide the dry grinding for particles which are under 3 micrometers. We ensure faster production for particles under 5 microns, and also higher production capacity for particles under 7 microns. So the customers can reduce the production costs. And the last but not least, apart from our material development techniques, we also develop processes and equipment. And one of them is particle rounding equipment. And with the help of this equipment, we can round mainly metal or recycled metal or polymer particles and make them applicable for 3D printing. And the other possible application is, for example, the use of recycled metal powders, which have usually no spherical form, and insert them into the plastic filaments so you can cheaply produce the parts from it using the common additive manufacturing technologies. Thank you for your attention, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
Thank you for your talk and your insights. So yes, please feel free to fill in your questions. And as I can see, we have the first one. So which specific additives were incorporated to achieve electrical conductivity in the PPS matrix?
Thank you for your question. We have used some nanomaterials for high electrical conductivity, as you may know, the carbon nanotubes. They contribute great to the electrical conductivity when they are integrated to polymers. But we also used some organic secret sauce nanomaterials, which were obtained with our milling technology.
Okay, thank you. Then we have a further question. How do you ensure the absence of air pores in composite filaments, such as ABS reinforced with iron produced via particle coating technologies?
The first factor is that we, with our innovative particle coating technology, we tightly coat the metal particles with plastics cover. And so there are no spaces between particles. And the second factor is extrusion properties, which for each kind of plastic matrix, they should be chosen separately. So these are the unique properties of extrusion, which allow us to obtain the integrate material with no pores.
Okay, and for the moment, I can see a last question. What are the key advantages of using mechanical grinding for nanoparticle production compared to chemical synthesis methods?
As I have already mentioned, the contamination levels. For example, we conduct the dry grinding also to obtain the nanoparticles, and commonly only wet grinding is used. And usually dry grinding, we omit the contamination problems. And for example, compared to synthetic particles, nanoparticles, we do not use any chemicals like acids, and we do not need then to wash the material afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Amen. So as I can see, there are currently no further questions. So if you have more, please feel free to contact us, and we will connect you then with Ms. Amen. So yes, that's it. It was a wrap. Thank you very much for joining us at our virtual talk today. Our next dates you will find on our website or on our LinkedIn channel. So just follow us and stay up to date. And yes, we're looking forward to September to see you all again here in Nuremberg at PowTech Technofarm, Partech and Fachpack from 23 to 25 September. So have a nice afternoon and see you soon. Bye-bye.